Hello, good morning. Can you hear? Yes. Okay. Now you can hear me. Okay, good. Good, good. Okay. Yeah, okay. Now, yeah, it won't be my computer, but I just want to check the link. And if we use this advanced link, I guess which is more secure. Okay. Okay, I understand. Okay, very well. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Have a good day.
I would kindly ask you to take your seat. We are just about to start. Thank you. I will take. Your Excellencies, Your Eminencies, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the International Dialogue Center KAICIID and our partners, the Network for Dialogue and the European Council of Religious Leaders, Religions for Peace Europe, and our supporter, the OSCE's Office for Democratic Institution and Human Rights, ODIHR, it is my pleasure to welcome you to the European Policy Dialogue Forum 2021 in Lisbon. My name is Aleksandra Đurić-Milovanović, and I'm the project manager of the Network for Dialogue at the International Dialogue Center KAICIID. Together with my colleague Elena Dini, who is a member of the Network for Dialogue, we will be the MCs during the first 2 days of the forum. Please note that the opening plenary, like all other sessions, are recorded and made available on the online platform. Let me take the opportunity to welcome all participants who are joining forum virtually. It is good to have you. In addition, plenaries are also live streamed on KAICIID's YouTube channel. If you need translation from English to Portuguese or vice versa, you can download the Intercultural application from your phone's app store, and you can log in using the event code for physical participants live policy forum and for virtual only policy forum. To hear interpretation in Portuguese or English, please use your mobile's headset. You can also find the QR code how to access the application on your table.
The European Policy Dialogue Forum was organized for the first time in 2019 in Athens, Greece. Let's go back to those moments and watch together a 3-minute video. "70 million people are displaced worldwide as a result of persecution, conflict, or violence. In 2019, more than 500,000 asylum applications were submitted in Europe. When arriving in Europe, refugees face many challenges in their social inclusion process. Although there are policies to support newcomers, they can be slow to adapt to evolving circumstances. This is why the European Policy Dialogue Forum on Refugees and Migrants is important, because it builds dialogue without walls. It brings together policymakers, religious leaders, academics, and civil society, such as KAICIID's Network for Dialogue members, to find new and better ways to foster the social inclusion of refugees and migrants. The Network for Dialogue brings together local faith and dialogue actors from a range of European countries to empower interreligious and intercultural action for refugee and migrant inclusion.
The Policy Forum can enable a very unique voice to be promoted and mobilised from faith communities to policymakers, which can help policymakers to think slightly different around approaches to integration of refugees.
The forum provides interactive exchanges where success stories and experiences are translated into further action, strengthening thus the social inclusion of refugees and migrants through dialogue.
And I think the format is also really great, the way that it's been done, like this real emphasis on dialogue and conversation. So there's very few talking heads. It's really about bringing people together to develop solutions.
If you're working in Europe on the social inclusion of refugees and migrants and support them through dialogue, visit us at kaicid.org/refugees and contact us at networkfordialogue@kaicid.org. It is our first time to organize a hybrid event. Therefore, we kindly ask for your patience for any challenges we might face. The first 2 days are dedicated to the topic of fostering social inclusion and enhancing active participation of refugees and migrants in host societies. We continue with the third day, which is the high-level dialogue on social cohesion that will focus on countering hate speech, efforts in Europe by strengthening cross-sector collaboration between religious and belief actors and policymakers. Physically and virtually, the forum brings together 170 participants from 29 Europe countries, including policymakers, representatives of religious communities from 7 faiths, refugees and migrants, members of civil society, academics, and practitioners. We are particularly interested in how faith-based actors and religious leaders can contribute to that conversation by giving refugees and migrants a stronger voice and allowing them to participate in European society.
Without further ado, we would like to introduce our first speakers. We are delighted to invite the main convener of this forum to the stage and have His Excellency Faisal bin Muaammar, Secretary General of the International Dialogue Center KAICIID, to provide the words of welcome to all of you. Your Excellency, you have the floor.
Good morning, Assalamu alaikum, peace be upon all of you. Very honored and delighted to be in Lisbon, beautiful city. We are going to have very enjoyable 3 or 4 days to get to know people and to learn more about this country and the people of Lisbon. Excellencies, Eminence, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it is a privilege and a great honor to address such an esteemed gathering at our third annual European policy dialogue forum in refugees and migrants. For this forum, which has been organized jointly with our partners, the Network for Dialogue, initiated by KAICIID in 2018, and the European Council for Religious Leaders, Religion for Peace Europe, with the kind support of the Office for Democratic Institutions and Human Rights. There could be, in my view, hardly be a more appropriate location than a beautiful, vibrant and hospitable Lisbon. Portugal is indeed the appropriate place to exchange views on how best to foster social inclusion and enhance participation of refugees and migrants in host societies, a country which, in the words of the UN High Commissioner for Refugees, has consistently been a champion of refugees' cause. I extend to all of you on-site and remote participants a very warm welcome, and I am also pleased to welcome among us today Her Excellency Cláudia Pereira, Secretary of State for Integration and Migration of the Republic of Portugal. Thank you for joining us. Distinguished guests and friends, KAICIID for over a decade has been a pioneer in promoting interreligious and intercultural dialogue and in working towards bridging the gap between religious leaders and policymakers. Because we believe that it is only through an inclusive dialogue that we can together address the challenges and threats that face humanity, among which what is now known as the 3 Cs: conflict, climate change, and unfortunately, COVID-19. KAICIID, since its inception, has been working on this issue pertaining to social inclusion, common citizenship, and combating hate speech. It is these very concepts that need to be strengthened and promoted for migrants and refugees to be fully fledged participants in their host communities, people like you and I, who are seeking to establish a meaningful life and a sense of belonging. For a few months ago, KAICIID with the support of the Network for Dialogue published 3 policies briefs based on the discussion of last year's forum organized by KAICIID and the Network for Dialogue and supported by the German Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the European Commission representation in Germany. The 3 policy forum briefs discuss how intercultural and interreligious dialogue are means to further social inclusion of refugees and migrants in Europe in the areas of inclusive education, trust building, and changing the often negative narrative on migration. Ladies and gentlemen, our theme for this year's forum is fostering social inclusion and enhancing participation of refugees and migrants in host societies. And the discussion and networking that will be taking place today and tomorrow fits well into the global debate regarding good integration practices and social inclusion models in the context of communities where refugees and migrants are living, and builds on last year's theme, fostering social inclusion and enhancing participation of refugees and migrants in host societies. We all gather here today to discuss, exchange views, and learn from each other, religious leaders, policymakers, experts, activists, and stakeholders, and lessons learned from practices of social inclusion, integration, and participation. I trust by working together in a positive partnership, we shall overcome many of our difficulties we face and indeed serve the causes of harmony and peaceful coexistence and promote sustainable development for all. When we speak of fostering social inclusion and participation in any given context, more so in this forum context, we speak of multi-dimensional process that involves social, political, cultural, and economical aspects, and one that operates at various levels of any given societies. Working together towards social inclusion and participatory process requires principles of inclusivity, integration, cooperation, a sense of belonging and trust, and an overall strong positive relationships. Moreover, we need to make use of insight from experiences on forthcoming ideas of how to best support social cohesion and participation in host communities. At the end of the day, it is about people and their capabilities of opportunities. It is also about celebrating diversity that will help us manage the rapidly changing world around us. And this requires leadership. This requires leadership from every one of us. It requires all of us to inspire, to influence, to challenge, to have the will, and to be determined. We need to involve all levels of societies as we work towards better inclusion and participation of refugees and migrants in their new-found home. This sense of common humanity that is translated on the ground is the vision of today and tomorrow's world, our global world. Together, we are able to build the bridges of partnerships. We don't want only to build the bridges, we want to cross the bridge to the other side. As strong, durable, and remarkable as Vasco Gama Bridge, we want to do the same thing. As we work together towards healthier, more inclusive communities where refugees and migrants have dignity, security, and the opportunities to lead a better life and give back to their host environment. I sincerely believe and hope you will enjoy today and tomorrow plenaries and working session, and I wish us all to have an interactive discussion with such distinguished and enlightened participants. Thank you all for your participation. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, for providing the opening remarks and welcoming our participants. We are highly appreciative of your support for this forum, not only this year, but from the very beginning in 2019. You are a strong believer that such a forum makes a difference, and we hope that all of you can experience that over the next 3 days. During 2021, Portugal and Slovenia have held the EU presidency. Therefore, we would like to welcome our keynote speakers from these two countries. We are very honored to have our first keynote speaker, Her Excellency Cláudia Pereira, Secretary of State for Integration and Migration of Portugal. The intervention will be in Portuguese, and those who need the interpretation can use the application that was mentioned, Interprefy, for translation. Portugal is known to be a welcoming country for refugees and migrants, and we are looking forward to learning more from you. Your Excellency, you have the floor.
Good morning, bom dia. I would like to compliment everyone and to say that although we have agreed it will be in Portuguese, given that most of the participants are foreigners, I will switch to English. So I will, although I have my presentation in Portuguese, I will try to do my best to translate into English. So I would... Thank you. Thank you. So I would like to compliment Mr. Muaammar, Secretary General of the International Dialogue Center, to compliment also Mrs. Fajon, Deputy of European Parliament, to compliment all the political decisors, heads of public organisms and civil society, and all the ones who are online and present, all the speakers and participants. It is really an honor to be in this forum, in the opening session, and it's an honor to host this forum in Lisbon. And we especially invest and value the intercultural and the interreligious dialogue and politics for integration and migration. So we are very, very happy with this forum taking place in here. Many thanks for that. I have 5 strong messages, but we can resume it in one strong message. In our government, and I will give the perspective of Portugal, and then we look forward to learn with the experience of all the countries here represented. But our main message is that in all the politics of the Portuguese government, what we do look for is to integrate in all the measures also the migrants and refugees. For instance, politics for housing. We assure that migrants and refugees have access. Politics of employment. We assure that migrants and refugees have access, that they do not have obstacles, first, and secondly, that they have information how to access. So that is our main aim, is to include migrants and refugees in all the measures of the government. And that we do by 2 mechanisms. First, to assure the information, to spread the information, and the High Commissioner for Migration has spread the information in more than 25 languages to municipalities, civil society, and secondly, to remove obstacles like in the documentation. There is still a lot to be done, but also a lot has already been done. And in the 2, we have 4 main points in our program of the government, and 2 of them are directly related with migrants. First, the strategical challenge of demography. We need migrants, also for our demography, and we want to ensure more life quality and more dignity. And secondly, our second main point of our axis of our government program is to reduce inequalities, and in that sense also including migrants. We have, for the last 25 years, our first High Commissioner for Migration and Ethnic Minorities. So it's already been 25 years doing this interconnection between different sections of the government. And on one hand, we have to ensure that we have the structures for integration of migrants and refugees, but at the same time, migrants have deeply contributed to our society, socially, culturally, linguistically, demographically, economically. And I would like to point one example. For instance, according to the Migration Observatory, in 2019, the contribution of migrants to the social security system was 884 million euros. So, between what the migrants contributed, 995 million, and what they received, 111 million, the social security system of Portugal benefited only from migrants, 884 million euros. And this is because the large majority, 81%, is active population, so they come here to work, like the Portuguese go abroad to work. So most of the population, immigrant and refugee population, are employed, and so because of that, the social security system also benefits. This is one of the contributions that we really would like to share, and we hope to also learn how in other countries what is a contribution to the social security system. And as I said, our aim is always to have included in all the measures the migrants and refugees. And so we have a multi-level approach, because we have an intervention that is national from the government, regional, and then also local. At the same time, we have also an approach that is multi-sectorial. So assuring that in housing politics, migrants and refugees are included, education, health, employment, learning of Portuguese language. So in this sense, it's multi-sectorial. And then multi-partners. We strongly try to promote the articulation between public services and civil society. And this was particularly helpful during the pandemic. Speaking about the migration policies in sharing the information and removal of the obstacles, we and with the High Commission for Migration have developed a structure of centers in Portugal in that they are extremely helpful in assuring that information reaches migrants, but also reaches mayors and other public institutes. So we have 4 national centers for migrants. They work like a one-stop shop, where migrants have translators. They can go to Social Security, to the National Service of Borders and Migration, or they can look for employment, all in the same space. So this is a one-stop shop for migrants. Then, and we are a country of 10 million people, but still very diverse. We have across the country, north, south, interior, in the islands, we have 128 local centers to integrate migrants. So most of them are in municipalities. So in the municipalities, when a resident goes to pay the bills or to ask information, in 128, you also have someone there specifically prepared to attend migrants, and whatever questions they may have according to the documentation or where to put the children at school or other questions. Then we also have 23 cabinets of professional integration of migrants. We have more for all the residents, but because many times migrants have specific questions of documentation, these ones have a special preparation. We have a phone line to support migrants that in 2020 received 106 calls, specially vocated for migrants. And then we also have a translation line, and this was very, very important during all the years, but especially in pandemic. And we have revised the Portuguese language courses, and we are also starting to revise the Portuguese online platform. Then I also like to say, and in connecting the different actors, religious actors, political, civil society, it was very important for us, the Global Compact of Migration from the United Nations. Basically, in the end of 2019, with the Global Compact of Migration, we started to meet state secretaries every month, public institutes to meet every month, and the ministers every 3 months. And what we did in these meetings was to solve what needed to be improved for migrants, to see what the removal of obstacles. For instance, we could see that it was difficult for many of them to have access to the social security system while they were waiting for their residence permit. So we just did the number of social security system in the hour, which means they did not have to wait for the residence permit to have the social security number. This may be very simple, but it took a lot of effort, and then many migrants could be regularized through this system. We also have simplified the renewal of residence permits. They were manual, and they became, most of them, automatic. So this is a work in progress, but the Global Compact of Migration was very important for us to reinforce our whole-of-government approach concerning migrants. Then we are also very committed in settling and integrating refugees, and more recently, the Afghans, like many countries.
Good morning.
In about 1 month and a half, we have received 251 Afghans, and children are already in school, and some of these Afghans are already starting to work, and so we are deeply committed with this effort. Then thirdly, the COVID-19. Again, the Global Compact for Migration of the United Nations was very important because we have reinforced our networks inside the government and with the local administration, the municipalities, and with the public institutes. As soon as pandemic arrived, we just issued a decree to ensure that no migrant would suffer for awaiting their residence permit. So we issued a decree in which the migrants were automatically regularized temporarily during the pandemic, which means they could have any right that any Portuguese has. For instance, the ones who the employers could give the layoff to the migrant employees who were undocumented. They could receive the unemployment also support and other social supports. Then we also have extended the validity of documents. So any Portuguese, like the car card or the passport, or so as the same way, any residence permit became valid until the end of 2021, so that no one would be left behind for their document not to be valid. So again, we tried to issue measures to everyone in Portugal, never leaving behind the migrants, but assuring they had access. Then also regarding the vaccination plan, we have created a platform. We were aware that still many migrants did not have the health number. So we created a platform for migrants who were undocumented and did not have the health number so that they could register. And then we also created the open house for vaccination to everyone, including migrants who were undocumented. And like this, we could assure the vaccination of nearly all the migrant population in Portugal and the residents in Portugal. So now we can say that we have 85% of the population in Portugal vaccinated, including migrants and refugees. Thank you. Additionally, all these measures regarding testing, vaccination, they were translated to more than 25 languages by the High Commissioner for Migration. And they were sent to health centers, to municipalities, to migrant associations, refugees associations, so that everyone could have access to this, to the information of these measures. And lastly, stressing on the intercultural and interreligious dialogue, we are multicultural and multireligious, and in Portugal we have 189 nationalities. In our population, 7% are migrants, And although the society is mainly Roman Catholic, we have many religious traditions. Judaism, Islamism, together with Buddhists, Hindus, Sikhs, Zoroastrians, and cosmovisions of African visions. And in the book, Cosmo in Portuguese, Religious and Spiritual Cosmovisions, a study published by the High Commissioner for Migration and produced by the area of Religion Sciences of Lusófona University, there are in Portugal 76 groups of spiritual and religious cosmovisions. So for us, having 189 nationalities and having 76 groups of religious cosmovisions, it's a source of richness. Again, we are 10 million, a small country, but with a very big diversity, which is really a source of richness. And with our intercultural and interreligious dialogue, we want to promote more and more that richness. In the High Commission for Migration, what we also have been promoting is spaces for persons of different religions and nationalities to meet and to know better each other. And so there are 5 programs that are particularly insightful. First, the network of schools for intercultural education. It's a network of the schools from north to south of the country. They meet usually every month and they discuss difficulties they have in schools with more than 40 nationalities and particular procedures they should improve so that every student feels integrated in the school. Secondly, we have teams of intercultural mediators. They are in municipalities bridging the migrants and refugees with the services of hospitals, of schools, of really making bridges between for them to better integrate. And this has been very, very effective, again, specifically in pandemic. We also have interreligious meetings, the MEET, which is focused on the young people from different religious communities, and they organize initiatives together and to better meet each other and to always integrate the most vulnerable young people. And then the interreligious dialogue group. They meet every month, 14 religious communities since 2015, and they have been very, very interesting initiatives. And this is, I think, one of the reasons that contributes for peace between religions in Portugal. So all these initiatives, together with others, they really assure a feeling of social inclusion. Of course, again, we need to do more, but a lot has been done in this sense. And to end, our main message is that to be integrated is to participate religiously, socially, and also politically, and also in health. And so I would like to give 3 examples. Again, just to stress that having 85% of the population vaccinated, among them being undocumented and documented migrants and refugees, means participation from everyone, from different associations, government, municipalities, Ministry of Health. This means really network being accomplished, and so this is one of the examples. Secondly, last month, we had elections for mayors at the municipalities, and we have increased in 10% the migrants who are going to vote. And so that this is also means participation, political and civic participation. And thirdly, we also have increased the number of migrants that were being candidates themselves to be elected. And so this means also political participation. So what we will try to promote, and we will definitely promote, is to have this, and as the Minister Muaammar said, is the interaction, to create and foster spaces of interactions, of working together. And this is one of the main messages that we have from the pandemic, the need to work together. So we will keep assuring that in every measures of the government, migrants and refugees are always included, and continuously working integration. Many thanks, and I wish a very insightful forum for all of us. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, for delivering a keynote remarks and for introducing some of the most relevant issues of participation and integration, which we are planning to discuss over the next 2 days. Thank you. Our second keynote speaker is Ms. Tanja Fajon, member of the European Parliament, who prepared a recorded video for the opening of the forum. Let's hear her message.
Dear guests, speakers and participants of the Third European Policy Dialogue Forum on Refugees and Migrants. It is a great pleasure to address you all at the start of this 2-day conference where you will be discussing one of the most important but also divisive issues of our generation, migration and asylum. First of all, allow me to thank the organizers for inviting me to participate at this important conference. Unfortunately, I cannot be there with you in person in beautiful Lisbon. However, allow me to convey my warmest regards from Slovenia and the European Parliament. I truly believe that no matter how contentious the problems we are facing or the topics we are debating are, only through dialogue can we address the concerns and find common solutions. That is why this conference is so important. Management of migration and asylum policies in Europe have been too often abused for scoring domestic political points, or have been the scapegoats for blindsiding public opinions for every other issue people care about, such as corruption, increasing inequalities, failing health systems, privatization of public services, or even high energy prices, if you will. Europe is the richest continent, and the right to asylum has been born from the bloodiest war of the 20th century. Asylum is one of the greatest civilization achievements of Europe's survival and struggle. It is clear that Europe cannot solve all the problems in the world alone, nor that it can accommodate more than 80 million forcibly displaced people worldwide, a heartbreaking and a total record number of those in need of aid, fleeing wars and persecution. This number is only likely to increase due to climate change and major political events we are all facing, such as most recently Afghanistan. But the reflection of the European Union as a land of opportunity must make us reflect on our strength and our responsibility in the world too. Europe does play its part, and we must therefore also assume our responsibility in the world we help build. This responsibility must also serve to make us more aware of the economic and political tools we have at our disposal to manage human mobility with our partners in the world in a coordinated way, while being attentive to people's rights. I believe that such conferences can help us reflect on the choices to be made to contribute to a global and sustainable approach to the management of migratory movements and wider migrant socio-economic and political issues at stake. I'm convinced that by listening to each other's points of view, we can begin to find common ground for courageous and innovative choices that can finally give countries and the European Union a common approach to policy on asylum and migration, which are built upon dialogue with refugees and migrants themselves. Ladies and gentlemen, colleagues, For as long as people will be dying at our shores in the Mediterranean and on our borders in the Balkans or in the east with Belarus, where Europe has become a fortress, that Europe shall not be in peace. I believe it is our duty, first of all, to save lives, and it is no longer acceptable to leave their responsibility only to NGOs. We must also ensure that people in need of protection can arrive in the European Union safely without risking their lives. With that, we also tackle traffickers who make billions of euros at the expense of human tragedies, but also Europe's inability to find consensus on migration. The solution is not that difficult. We have to put in place a functioning and holistic European migration policy, combining external and internal dimensions. We therefore need to work together to achieve a good outcome on the latest reform proposed by the European Commission on the Pact for Immigration and Asylum. In particular, we have to work to overcome the Dublin system for genuine cooperation between member states based on a permanent mechanism of solidarity and sharing of responsibility. We must ensure that frontline member states are not left alone and guarantee that migrants and asylum seekers in the EU receive dignified treatment and human life conditions throughout the asylum procedure. I'm convinced that this strategic approach can help us move to a sustainable migration system, which is not a new occurrence or an emergency. And dialogue, again, which is key to achieving all that. I'm sure that this conference will importantly contribute to this European debate. Migration is a historic phenomenon, and migration is and has been a European challenge for quite some years now. But the solution must also be European for common good. Allow me to conclude my message by thanking you again for the invitation. I wish you all a successful conference and many, many fruitful discussions. Stay safe and healthy.
We appreciate the strong and important message from Tanja Fajon of the European Parliament, which gave us an overview of the migration situation and policies in Europe. In the course of the next 2 days, we're going to have one specific aspect in mind, the one of participation of refugees and migrants. After this first part of the introduction, we would like to turn our attention to some housekeeping announcements, which will enable you to feel comfortable and secure during the next 3 days. First of all, as we all know, we still face the COVID-19 pandemic. That's why it is critical for all physical participants to follow the rules of our host country, Portugal, and wear masks inside the plenary halls. We want to appeal to all of you to follow that requirement, although we recognize that this is not always comfortable, but the safety of all of us is important. If you have any doubts about the COVID-19 restrictions, please take a look again at the 2 pages that were shared with you in advance in the forum.
Second, we would like to point out to all our physical participants that you can connect to the Wi-Fi. The code has been handed out to you, and you can find it in a welcome desk as well. Third, as you are also hopefully aware, there is an online platform for the forum at www.policydialogueforum.eu, where you can find the agenda, speakers and their bios, and the input papers prepared for the forum. While the online platform is available to everyone, you can also find the link to the Attendee Hub, which is only available for registered participants for the forum. The Attendee Hub provides you with the opportunity to interact with our participants and moderators through the chat function, polls, and breakout discussions. Thus, you can interact with physical and also virtual participants. Note that you can update your profile there, including your social media profile, so others can find you on Twitter or LinkedIn.
Speaking of social media, if you find the speakers and ideas discussed here interesting, we encourage you to share them. Please use the hashtag Dialogue for Inclusion throughout the 3 days of the event. Alexandra has told you about the online platform and the Attendee Hub, to which you have all been invited. While for most virtual participants who are in front of a computer or a laptop, the Attendee Hub is the most convenient way to follow the forum, we also encourage the physical participants to be connected with others during the time of the forum through the Attendee Hub app. You have received an email, and at the registration, you were encouraged to download the C-Event app. And there you have the access to the Attendee Hub. With the app, you can post comments in the chat, pose questions, and participate in the polls.
Thank you, Elena, for mentioning the polls. We encourage you to take now your mobile phones and connect to the C-Event application and log into the forum. We would like to test out the first poll that we have prepared for you and to ask you a very simple question. How do you feel right now? Please take the app and answer using the poll. We encourage you to participate and try. I will give you a few seconds until you can provide your answer.
Hopefully this is working for you all. The poll during this day is going to be really a tool to hear your voice, to hear how things are going. And here we had 5 options. I'm happy to see that most of you so far, you answered the question with motivated as well as excited. So this is helping to really feel the audience. We have someone who is hungry, so don't worry, at some point, really, the coffee break will come. But still, I think we're really happy to see that most of you, like we are excited about the 2 days that we have in front of us. So during the next 2 days, sometimes we will use this tool of the poll, and feel free to let us hear your voice through that. Having said that, we concluded with our housekeeping, and thank you to all of you who joined us in this exercise. Thanks for your patience with us. But we hope that all this information will really allow all of us to feel comfortable, and we hope that you will be active and engage with the app and social media during the time of the conference. Thank you.